Ant Group was scheduled to have the world's largest IPO at a $313 billion market cap. In fact, at this valuation, Ant Group would be the 11th largest stock in the S&P 500. So guys, this is no joke. It would be larger than companies like Walmart, Home Depot, Coca-Cola. The list goes on and on. And guys, if you're not getting the message through, this was supposed to be a massive deal. And everything was going smoothly, IPO, everyone's excited. But then some bad news came up and we got hit with this. News sources stated that the IPO for Ant Group would be suspended on the Shanghai and Hong Kong exchange. So what does all this mean? Well, let me tell you from my perspective, I think there's a lot more going on than meets the eye. So in this video, I want to discuss a few things to really answer the questions. What does Ant Group do? Why are they so big? Then we'll move on and we'll talk about why this IPO got suspended, in my opinion. And then finally, what this means for the future of Chinese stocks like Alibaba, for example. So I think this video is actually going to have a ton of value for you guys and kind of give you my perspective on what I personally do with Chinese stock investments as well. So you definitely want to watch the entire video through. And if you enjoy it, just consider dropping a like down below and hit the subscribe button as well with the bell notification so you're notified every time I release a new video. Okay, so what does Ant Group do and why are they so big? Clearly we know this is an important company, $300 billion market cap, biggest IPO in the world, but what makes them so interesting? Ant Group used to be called Ant Financial and it's seen as the fintech giant of the world, especially in China where the company is based. They own the popular Alipay app, which is one of the main go-to apps for Chinese consumers to make payments on through their phones. And this is pretty big because even here in Canada, I've noticed some stores actually accepting Alipay as a form of payment. So it's definitely spreading outside of China and it's definitely something to keep an eye on because it's competing head to head with some North American businesses now. But now what you may not know, even if you've seen these signs in stores, is that they don't only offer the consumer part, they also help out merchants. Similar to Square, it allows merchants to accept in-store payments through their platform, so you can accept payments from a customer all around the world, doesn't matter where they're from. What they also do is try to offer low transaction costs for the merchants so that they're more inclined to go with their platform versus the competition. So you can definitely see where the huge potential is here. It's grown massively in China, which is their primary market. Consumers have adopted it as their main form of payment. Merchants have adopted it as a main source of payment. And everyone's kind of happy using their platform, so there's just tons of money flowing through this business. There's definitely tons of value that this business offers, both consumers and merchants. And because of that, there's been a ton of interest around this IPO. In fact, interest has been so strong that individual investors were fighting to get in on the listing, pushing huge demand for this IPO, and this worked out to an investment interest of nearly $600 billion. Guys, that's a lot of money. So then naturally you're probably wondering, well, everyone is excited for this IPO. Everyone was kind of gunning to get into this IPO. So why did they get suspended, in my opinion? Okay, so this is kind of the part where things get a little bit interesting, and just note this is just my perspective and my opinion. It's not factual. What I see is that it all really comes down to one man, Jack Ma. You probably recognize this man from Alibaba, and if you remember, he did step down as the face of the company last year unexpectedly, and he's kind of been under the radar ever since. But guess what? The face of Alipay was also, you guessed it, Jack Ma as well. And this means that he is heavily involved and is pretty much the face of Ant Group. So it's clear when Ant Group was going public here and they were building up to this, there were a lot of articles specifically talking about Jack Ma. So he was kind of getting more attention all of a sudden, all over again, kind of becoming the face of the company all over again. And that's maybe where things started going wrong. Now, this is just rumors and speculation, but there was some news circulating around a little while ago that Jack Ma and the Chinese government didn't really see eye to eye, which is what ultimately led to him stepping down and pretty much not being associated with the company, at least from a face level anymore. When you think of Amazon, you think of Jeff Bezos. Think of Facebook, you think of Mark Zuckerberg. Think of Apple, you'll think of either Tim Cook or you'll think of Steve Jobs. The point is, with Alibaba, the Chinese government does not want you to think Jack Ma, which is why they've tried to kind of pretty much just, ask him to step down, don't talk about it, pretend like it never happened. And now with Ant Group, it looks like that attention is happening all over again. And who knows, maybe there's more to this. Now we're seeing headlines like this pop up. China pulls Ant Group's giant IPO after dust up with billionaire Jack Ma. And this is where it said that the Chinese IPO was postponed one day after Chinese regulators summoned Jack Ma and other executives of financial technology giant Ant Group. So clearly, if you put two and two together, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's clear the issue lies with Jack Ma. It's not specifically the company Ant Group that has any sort of issues with the government, at least from what I can see. It's just the fact that Jack Ma is the face and they don't like that. Now, what's interesting though is that this time around, the news media is really on top of this, at least from what I can tell. When he had to step down from Alibaba, there wasn't too much talk. It just kind of abruptly happened. Everyone just kind of said, oh, that was surprising, but I kind of forgot about it pretty quick. But with this, since the company had so much attention on it because of going IPO, and because Jack Ma was already such a well-known name that kept associating it with this IPO, there is a ton of media attention, ton of news outlets that's reporting on this, which leads me to think that actually this time around, I don't know if they'll actually be able to get Jack Ma to step down and not be the face of this company. It would look pretty bad for the Chinese government if Jack Ma had to, disappear again and not really be associated with this company as much as he'd want to be. And because the whole world is watching, I think that this time around it may be different, at least for now. Now, this doesn't mean that they're going to forget about it and just kind of move on. I think that, they may actually let this IPO go through, let Jack Ma be the face for now, but then, once all the hype passes, that's when they come swoop in and say, hey, you gotta step down, you cannot be associated with the face of this company anymore, and that's that. Guys, this is just speculation. Now, if you're investing in Chinese stocks, you need to have some understanding of what this means for the future of Chinese stocks, Chinese stock investing, with companies like Alibaba, Tencent, or maybe Ant Group eventually. So here's kind of where things get a little bit gray. So right now, for me, the only Chinese stock that I own is Nio Stock, and I own a very small speculative position. It makes up barely anything in my portfolio, but I have it there for some exposure to that industry in China. I have previously owned companies like JD, Alibaba, Tencent, which are kind of the three most well-known companies in China, at least ones that you can trade here on the US exchange. And after seeing the amount of control the government has over, doesn't matter who it is in China, even a billionaire, such a well-known name across the world, Jack Ma, was forced to step down of Alibaba. Honestly, it kind of made me think twice on my Chinese stock investments. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I wasn't comfortable having large chunks of cash in those businesses because, there's political risk and then there's Chinese political risk. So I don't know, it didn't sit too well with me and I decided to sell out of those positions. So investing in any company is, adds some level of risk. That when you invest in a foreign company, adds a little bit more level of risk because there's less regulations and less transparency. And then when you're investing in a Chinese company, that's another level of risk altogether. And guys, having large amounts of cash in there did not let me sleep well at night. And honestly, I'm investing so that I have freedom, financial freedom, all that kind of stuff in the future. So sleeping well at night is definitely a high priority on my list. I think that this IPO has really opened up the eyes, and I really wanted to make this video to discuss this because it really shows us how one move that the government makes there affects pretty much all of the major stocks there. For example, there's headlines here coming out that, Alibaba stock dropped after suspension of Ant Group's blockbuster IPO, and investors are definitely fearful here in my opinion, with the stock down over 6% today at the time of recording this, on this Ant Group IPO delay news alone. It doesn't seem to matter if the company is, just a few billion or a few $100 billion worth. The government there has a very strong hold and they're able to make moves as they please. So guys, because of this, while Chinese stocks may offer a lot of upside, I'm limiting my exposure just to Nio, and again, as a very, very small position, because I don't want that added risk of just having that exposure for a business that I just cannot sleep well knowing that I own. Ultimately, when I make a decision on an investment, I weigh the pros and cons, I weigh the risk to reward ratio, and I make a decision based on that. But like I said, when it comes to foreign stocks, when it comes to Chinese stocks, there's a lot more risk involved, so there has to be a very compelling argument. And I believe that while Tencent, Alibaba, JD are great businesses from what we know, there's just better opportunities out there that offer me more reward for less risk. Guys, as always, let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on this, whether you agree or disagree with my speculation. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. But either way, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to invest positively, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.